Hello, media graphics students. I hope my video yesterday was a little bit helpful in understanding the 11 rules of composition. So just to recap, right, all this information that I'm providing for you is available for you. It's underneath the class notebook, right? Each section has particular topics and subjects that we're talking and discussing about and learning about. And within those sections have all these pages. So let's take a closer look at what we reviewed yesterday, and let's finish up our lesson for today, right? So the 11 rules of composition in your classroom notebook up here. Remember that great design starts by being able to communicate to your viewer. That is your ultimate goal as a designer, right? You want to be able to attract, create interest, and deliver your message. Those are your most important purposes behind every design that you create, right? Communication to the viewer, and you need to make sure that it's clear, okay? So last time I talked with you, we reviewed focal point, right? So the focal point is the area of interest. It creates emphasis. It helps the reader or viewer understand in the end what's attracting them to the overall message, okay? Then we talked about hierarchy, and I talk about hierarchy so much that it's probably making your head spin around, right? So hierarchy is the order in which we create visual content, right? How do we create content that has contrast so that the field of perception allows viewers to understand what comes first, what comes second, what comes third, and so on and so forth, right? And there were some really great examples in here just kind of showing you how visual hierarchy works, because sometimes you don't even realize that you're a victim of it, right? The next thing we talked about was leading lines and how it can be used in design to help direct viewers to your focal point and to your message, right? So they can have leading lines that are implied or that are very obvious. So it's kind of up to you, and it also depends on the design that you're creating. Not every design, again, has to be clearly defined. Like in this example, the arms outstretched with the circles underneath, and so it helps draw your eye into the logo here. And then we talked about something called flow charts. I thought you guys might appreciate this little flow chart, right? And it's just an example of how diagrams represent a algorithm or a step-by-step approach in solving tasks, and how leading lines brings you throughout all of that here in this particular design. The last thing we talked about was negative space, which I feel like is really important for everyone to consider in all their designs. And I even do this with my own work, you know, so you have to think about negative space as a positive, right? So it helps boost your design clarity by creating this balance and unity throughout your composition, right? The benefits is that it helps frame things, cuts down on clutter. The scannability of the page is so much easier for me as a viewer to understand what is the important content that you're trying to get to me, right? And then we talked about some questions you should always think about in your design, right? When in doubt, ask these things. Is the element in each of my design, is it 100% necessary? Do you need all that type on the page? I mean, it's all over the place. It's not clear for the viewer what's going on unless your main focal point is chaos. Do you need that bright blue title? Does it match the design, right? Like if we're looking at these, like I think they're IKEA advertisements, would a bright blue title work for that? I don't think so. I think it would distract from the overall focal point or message, right? And so now we're just going to talk about the rest of these here. So scale for effect, right? Scale is relative, always. It's about how something appears larger or smaller depending on the size, placement, and color of elements that are around it, okay? So contrast in size can create a sense of tension as well as a feeling of depth and movement. And it is a great way that we've started to learn visual hierarchy through typography, right? We've said that the headliner should be your biggest, The subtitle is your second smallest, and body text is the third smallest text, but it goes much deeper than that, right? So scale is often, again, communicated through hierarchy, drawing attention towards certain elements. So if we're taking a look at this example over here, like I just said, we're talking about the headline. In the magazine, in this newspaper says, "On the moon." That's the headline. That's huge. It grabs your attention, right? I'm going to go back up here. Grabs your attention. It attracts you. Interest, delivery of the message, right? And scale can really help you do that. Another example is this great Beethoven poster. The text is small, but the scale of Beethoven in this poster really attracts the viewer to what's going on. And then they created scale with the text, right? So Beethoven being the headline, right, has this bold font compared to the body text, which has all that message and content that someone needs to understand to purchase a ticket. Is the body text. It's smaller, right? So great scale use all throughout this design. Next, let's talk about balancing elements, right? Balance is always important in design, and there's a couple of different strategies that you can take in regards to your creation, right? So it's the concept of visual balance and can be compared to balance in the physical world, right? So it's the placement of elements in a graphic design. Everything has a visual weight to it. If you have dark colored next to a light color, the dark elements will naturally feel heavier in your design. So there's a couple different types of balance that you should be aware of. There's asymmetrical. Look at Will Smith here. He looks phenomenal, right? It's very off balance, but it has great unity through the design, right? It's got good balance through asymmetry. And then you have symmetrical design, like in this poster design for Finding Nemo, right? It reflects certain design elements from left to right, while the other one is more concerned about creating balance without symmetry. It's a little bit harder, and it has uses through design. So it's just about figuring out what it is you're designing and which one to go with. So in symmetry, there's a couple of different ways of tackling a symmetrical design. There's rotational symmetry. So there's a center point and things are rotating around it. Look at the pretty birds, right? There's transitional symmetry. So occurs when you can move an element in your design without loss of symmetry or proportion. So things are not scaling down or anything like that. They're just in a line. It might be a good way to create like a leading line. Reflectional symmetry. So if I am looking at a mirror, I'm seeing my reflection. That's how that works in symmetry. And then there's also glide reflection symmetry. In lamest terms, it's where you take the reflection, you flip it around to create this really interesting design. So you have this inverted and you make it look like it's drifting away. So here was like a little example I was able to find of birds as well. Asymmetrical design, what is it good for? Lots of great things, right? So it's a good technique for mastering if you want elements to have weight to it. Small objects might weigh less than larger objects, and heavily textured elements might weigh more than flatly colored elements. Whatever the case of your design, reach an effective equilibrium. Lots of times you'll find designers that use both techniques. They're going to have both elements of symmetry and asymmetrical design within their work, and it really creates something truly unique and cohesive. When should I use these? When am I going to use them, right? Here's some great examples. So for asymmetry, if you are trying to make a dynamic design where you want to convey this awesome message, you want to draw attention to something, right? So when we were looking at the negative space at those IKEA furnitures, that's an asymmetrical design. It is very heavy, right? It's our eye is drawn to that focal point because of the asymmetry. Other examples here for symmetrical approaches, if you want to achieve more order and structure, like so if you're doing book covers, the pages in between magazines and all that, you might want to stick with a symmetrical design. It lets viewers have consistent expectations as they're turning pages. If you want to seek more serious aesthetic, I'm going to use a symmetrical approach for my design concept if I'm making a medical poster, as to where I would probably use an asymmetrical design framework for my design if I'm doing something for like a circus, you know, for instance. So here are just two little examples, right? They have different weights, but they're both very successful designs. All right, on to the next category, contrast, right? How do we create contrast? There's loads of different ways. You can do this in color, shape, texture, size, proportion, among other things. So really you're looking at the elements of art and how you can contrast them together. So useful tools for both highlighting and hiding certain elements of your design. By upping the contrast to feature colors, you can help an element stand out and draw attention. Likewise, by lowering the contrast, you can make an element fade into the background. So here are some examples. Wow, really neat designs, right? So high contrast colors can be used to help you frame work, right? Bold typefaces to highlight key pieces of information. And then they contrasted in this design by having lighter, thinner type to push the other elements out further to us, right? So it was what grabbed our attention, so that we could later deliver our message. And then here's an example of contrast where they're just trying to take the focus off, right? So this yellow paperclip on a yellow background, creating low contrast between the object and background. While this is usually a thing you want to avoid, in this case, it reinforces the event name, right? Which is ignored every day. So when you're figuring out the focal point, sometimes it's important to realize that what you want people to understand in that message isn't always about imagery, right? So the takeaway from this is use contrast with purpose with your design, whether it's to adjust focus towards an element or away from it, okay? Next category. I hope before we move forward with our 4 last categories, just let me know in some comments below here if you've got any questions thus far. Please submit some questions if you have any about the assignment that you're confused about under the post section here, and we'll get right back to it in round 3.